Manly Hall official, is glad to produce, publish and offer. The law of non-attachment. Man's attachments hind him to the physical world like the Lilliputians hound Gulliver in the ancient story until he is hopelessly involved with material unrealities. Of all the things that hamper his usefulness in this world, there are none that make him as much their slave as his senses, for instead of illuminating him they tie him up in endless complications until he learns to extract from them their essence without accepting their shortcomings. Man spends ages trying to untangle this knot of human destiny until, like Alexander the Great, he loses all patience and cuts the tangle with a single blow. This sharp steel is discrimination, and its shining blade divides the false from the true, for from discrimination is horn divine reason, which proves to man the illusions of materiality. Man must learn to divide, in the depths of his soul, the eternal quest from the passing fancy, and in his ability to do this lies the degree of his mastery. The initiate has learned to pass consciously from the mortal Maya to the immortal Nirvana, the one who rests strong in the reality of the eternal and whose consciousness is united with that of the eternal meditator. Such a one is free from all attachments, and attachment to particulars is the basis of limitation. Let us go out into the world and study the curse of attachment as it stalks like the spirit of death, of which it is the essence, over our world, gathering into itself all who accept it or who fall victims to the mirror of matter which it carries, so the ancient Aztecs said, upon its belly. In their legends the demon floated as a great flame over the universe, and all who looked into this cursed mirror lost their soul. So all who pause to gaze at themselves in the mirror of illusion become involved in Maya, which slowly destroys all who are not free from its vanity. There are two worlds floating in space, it is said, the world of temporal things and the world of eternal things. In the world of material things lies the spirit of man, bound to oblivion by the ties of matter. He lives for today alone, he serves the passing fancy, he struggles to retain the illusion and then falls broken-hearted as the hand of infinite law slowly dissolves the visible things into the unknown reality. If you're enjoying this video and finding value in the content, we kindly ask you to take a moment to subscribe to the channel. A large portion of our listeners and viewers haven't subscribed yet, and by doing so, you'll help us grow and continue bringing you more high-quality audiobooks. Your support means a lot to us, and it's just one click away. So, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to stay connected and never miss out on our latest releases. As the material universe, its works completed, is resolved into the unformed being, those souls still tied to its spinning wheels by crystallized thoughts and animal desires pass with it into dissolution, while the sage, perfect in realization, insomuch as he is free from the illusion, passes on to his already realized nirvana. Many in this world, in fact nearly all, are fighting to gain liberation, while by thought, action and desire they are tied to the spinning wheel, and in their thoughtless effort become only more involved in the very problem they are seeking to remove. Man cannot climb to liberation and still serve the ties that bind him to the earth, so the ancients taught, as the first step to immortality, the realization of the unreality of mortality, not that the objective universe did not exist, but that it only existed as a means to an end, and as such should be accepted, considered and mastered, but never assumed. Attachment is the base of sorrow, the parent of crime, the inspiration of lust, and the causeless cause of limitation. Man must battle it through the realization of one great truth, that attachment to matter is the renouncing of spirit, and that attachment to spirit is the renouncing of matter. It is written that man may not serve God, spirit, and mammon, matter. The sage is free in the realization of the immortal reality, while the fool is chained a prisoner by his acceptance of the immortality of matter. The ancient prophet, wandering over the earth, cried out in his agony, "There is no rest among the children of earth, there is no peace in the cities of the plains, nor in the forts among the mountains. Release me, O God, from this moral clay which hinds me with its stony fingers and dooms me to death the day that I was born. Oh, unhappy fate! That liar slay and slays that it may hear again. Here take up your staff and walk with me among the children of the earth, long bowed like the tribes of Israel under the rod of Egypt's blackness matter." Attachment is the rod and flail that stripes the back of man with the red welts of mortal agony. It is the heartless slave driver that breaks the back of the spirit and the heart of each soul that falls victim to its wiles. Yet out of this land of darkness comes the new race, born of sorrow and widowed by the loss of light. Out of matter rises the spirit triumphant, which spreads its wings and draws upward to the freedom of reality. There is but one consciousness, and it is not in matter. There is but one truth, and that is the realization of immortal purity. There is but one quest, the search for reality. There is but one reward, and that the attainment of reality. There is but one devotion, and that the love of reality. There is but one sin, the loss of the reality. There is but one death, that the death of reality. When the clouded soul of man loses sight of the star of truth that gleams through the veil of Maya, as the clouds of old concealed the body of deity, so the clouds of attachment shroud truth in a winding sheet of limitation. Let us watch the people whom we daily pass all slaves to attachments, crushed by ignorance as to the will of the planner or the wisdom of the plan. Little better than beasts they are, who know not when nor why, but, like little puppets in a shadow show, follow the strings they have placed upon themselves. The master is aside from these, strong in truth and steadfast in reality, and when he comes to earth he comes not with peace but with a sword, its blade sharpened on the grindstone of the eternal wheel, sharpened to slash the veil of Maya, and to divide the false from the true. Watch now the ghosts we call men and women who, while still living, are in truth dwelling in the death of matter. First, love comes with bowed head and tear-stained face, for all today who flutter moth-like around its hallowed flames sink broken-hearted at the foot of its altar. The price of love in the world today is loneliness and sadness, because we have not learned to unveil the mystery that love is of the spirit and not the body. The attachment to form is today the measure of affection, and in form there is no rest, no peace, below that line that borders immortality. Then comes pride, a god that many worship. Man fights and dies to be superior and to gather around himself things that other men cannot attain, but when the victory seems won, the hand of eternity sweeps all away and leaves the soul crushed by its broken dreams. Then vanity, that which seeks to beautify the unreal, and leave the living truth unadorned. It decks with flowers and stones that which is already dirt, and bows before the dazzling array of worthlessness. After this, the specter of lust appears in the role of a human being, but with the soul of a beast. It crushes the thing that it adores, slays the spirit it claims to worship, and with the call of fleshly sense seeks to answer the divine call of the spirit within. There is a cloud upon the soul of man, and he knows not the way that he should go, nor does he realize the path that shall take him there. He seeks entrance where angels dare not tread, but is not willing with the sharp blade of non-attachment to sever the cord that binds him to the great illusion. He aspires to heaven, but is still chained to earth with every fear, with every habit, and with each desire. This is the story of Vedanta, the philosophy of the unreal. For thousands of years it has been taught that there is but one true thing, the spirit, and that as it gathers ever-changing bodies around itself, it changes in the eyes of mortal man, but the life of it is ever the same. With the keen sense of discrimination, man finds peace by seeing the noble striving of the spirit and not the fleshy failings of the body. Until he finds this and accepts this, there is nothing in his soul to fill the emptiness of a heartless world. As the gifts of Santa Claus come down through the fireplace, so man's gift to the spirit comes out of the flame of suffering which tempers the steel of the sword of spirit. In experience lies infinite possibility. Man's free will must choose experience above comfort, for by this path lies unfoldment of the human soul. The white elephant. The white elephant is the ancient Oriental symbol of transmuted matter. For ages, white has been used to symbolize purification, to represent a cleansed or bleached surface exposed to the light of the sun, spiritual or physical. According to science, those substances which absorb light are black or dark in color, while those which reflect light are white or pale in color. The unpurified earth absorbs the light of the sun, as do all the other planets, therefore is called negative, while the sun is a vitalizer and the life giver and is called positive. For many ages the white robe has stood for a purified body, trimmed in red for transmuted emotion and sky blue for spirituality. As man's first labor is to purify and prepare matter to become the throne of a divine essence, the end of this process is concealed under the symbol of the white elephant, which is the symbol that India has given for the redemption of matter and its transmutation into a purified garment for the manifestation of spirit. It is said in the ancient stories that Buddha was conceived as a white elephant, and that at the moment of his conception a great spiritual ray descended into matter. Most of the great initiates are said to have been born of immaculate conceptions. The reason for this is that ages of preparation are necessary before the master is either ordained or the vehicle for his manifestation properly cleansed and prepared. All the initiations that lead to immortality are taken on the physical plane while the candidate is in a concrete physical body. There are no initiations between lives, and every candidate for spiritual enlightenment must pass the tests of initiation here in this world of matter. There are no records of a great one who was born conscious of his mission. Some have received light very young, one at 12 years of age, while another did not comprehend his mission until he was nearly 90 years old. This does not mean that the great ones do not possess their knowledge before birth, but that it takes the incoming consciousness from 12 to 90 years to bring its sacred wisdom out through the body which it is manifesting through. The consciousness of the enlightened is so highly developed that only the most finely attuned instrument is capable of registering it in this world. The Immaculate Conception is that process in nature which prepares for the coming of a great adept, initiate or world savior, for such do not come alone into the world but are properly heralded and their way prepared. He could not come in without the world knowing it, for certain qualities come with him, and one of them is a great dynamo of flaming light. In the case of the Master Jesus, there were chosen as his parents two of the order of the Nazarenes, sometimes called the Essenes. They were set apart from all mankind, both in spirit and in life, so that their bodies were purified to the degree that the shock of the coming fire globe might not destroy them. If this preparation had not taken place, they would have died from the rates of vibration set in motion. Before the coming of a world teacher, there is always a period of preparation during which time his body is chosen for him and the atoms of the vehicles purified to the utmost degree possible. The children that are brought into the world at the present time bring as their heritage about 16 generations of scrofula, and not one child in a multitude is born free of inherited disease or physical imperfection of a serious nature for which the parents are responsible. When the master or initiate is coming into the world, he cannot use these physiological concoctions commonly known as bodies, for they are the basis of limitation. Every impurity in them limits him more and more, and his work demands freedom of consciousness, for he has come to assist in the overpowering of limitation. And so, in order to facilitate his work, every care is taken to see that he is supplied with as pure a vehicle as the world can make, and when such a one is found or prepared, the great consciousness descends as a ray of light into it and takes control. But no matter or how fine the body may be, it always retains some impurity, for there is no living thing at the present time that is 100% perfect, as the very food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe assist in defiling the body. Therefore it takes the initiate from 12 to 90 years to impregnate this body with the full consciousness of his power. Before the ego is capable of revivifying his bodies, he is as much in darkness as other men, and of 10 in his younger life the initiatito B does not live in accordance with his wisdom. All have to fight the hereditary instinct. This inheritance is not a part of the spirit, but is the incessant voice of the bodies, and oftentimes it takes ages before the voice of the appetites can be stilled. We say that Buddha was conceived as a white elephant, that is, in the most perfect body that could be prepared for him. When the spiritual consciousness entered it, all nature felt a vibratory thrill. Anyone who has studied vibration realizes that even the presence of a great power will cause nature to quake. The first time that the occult student meets his teacher, he is usually prostrated. No unfoldment of consciousness can come to the candidate here without a disintegrating effect upon the physical body. When the candidate takes up his work and comes in touch with those powers that be in nature, these occult qualities often tear down his organisms, causing him sickness and suffering. A certain teacher in this country was once sitting reading at a desk when the form of Master appeared to him for the purpose of giving a certain message. At the moment of his appearance, the person sitting in the chair was electrified by a shock not unlike the feeling that comes over us when we touch a live wire. In spite of nerves of steel and an indomitable willpower, this person was unable to stand up or move, but just sat there with the tears running down his face. Madame Blavatsky said that electricity is the fringe of the garment of an unknown deity whose heart no man knoweth. The electric force generated within the body of the master would put the average individual to sleep, and if it be a great master, the rates of vibration may destroy the student. This is the same thing which of 10 embarrasses the student with studying or listening to a lecture. There will come over the man overpowering desire to go to sleep. It is not a normal desire, but the result of the presence of rates of vibration that are too high for them. So we must realize the necessity of preparing for discipleship and the coming of a great master, whatever day or age of the world it may be. The great spiritual entity that takes control must be properly welcomed and prepared for. There are not 3 bodies in the world at the present time capable of bringing an initiate into the world, and you can count on your fingers those who could bring in an adept without disintegration. Only the lowest egos are capable of finding bodies at the present time, and when there are not a certain number of older souls to guide the race, it speedily collapses. The fall of a race takes place when the bodies of its members become so crystallized that the teachers are incapable of working through them. As long as there is one body in a race that is capable of giving entrance to the powers of the unseen, then that race shall live, but no longer. The coming of the great initiate is the white elephant, the rarest thing on earth. When we are able to produce the environments, bodies, and qualities necessary to bring in great intelligences, then we shall have the influxes of knowledge needed for the development of a race. 2 things are necessary for the manifestation of a world savior. One is the spirit descending into matter, and the other is matter ascending into a spiritualized state. A great one cannot come down into crystallization, neither can inanimate substance become a god in such a length of time, and so they meet at a central point. Buddha was not born consciously as a great initiate, and in his early life he undoubtedly did many things that were not in harmony with the great wisdom which later expressed through him. He is not to be condemned for the limitation, but is to be treated and considered generously, as all living things, though they be gods incarnate, are limited in some manner by the bodies that contain them. The desertion of his wife and child has always brought condemnation to Buddha, but let us consider it for a moment from a broader standpoint. The reason for Buddha's youth is shown in the story of his boyhood. The great soul coming into the world was immersed in materiality, which was symbolized by the flower garden of the king. He was ever surrounded by the animal and human qualities which seek to prevent the release of the Buddha within, and it was not until he had wandered for over 40 years that he consciously connected himself with the message he had come to bring, and through the living of which knowledge he gained liberation. The Buddhas are men who have reached liberation from the wheel of birth and death, and many of them are wonderful because of the purely human side of their being. All through his life Buddha loved with the finest side of human sentiment. When he sat under the bohai tree waiting for the last revelation and the realization of his 2 great truths, all the demons of nature came to tempt him. But he is said to have remained in silence, unchanged and unmoved, saying, "I have no attachment for these things, for they are the unreality." The last temptation that came to him was the vision of his beloved wife and child. Then, it was said, that great Siddhartha groaned. But he gave them up also, and in this he won illumination. He gave up one for the good of many, sacrificing his own love for the service to the world. 2 were sad, 500 million gladdened. So we cannot but believe that he took the wise course. And so they have all, these great ones, wandered years before they found themselves, searching to discover and lift out from the shroud of the body the knowledge that they had gained in the past and the memory of the work they had come to do. Always behind the veil of mortal things there are those who are glad and willing to serve their brothers in the world. The saviors and sages of the ages are there, but are unable to act, for between them and us is a wall which can never be pierced until through the Immaculate Conception we build a body here for them to function in. The greatest thing that stands between the world today and the golden age of a spiritual renaissance is 16 generations of scrofula, thoughtless parents, and general inharmony in the home and in the world. These are the things which man himself has created, and they alone prevent the advance of his gods and the spreading of his light. From the unseen worlds behind us, around us, and before us, comes everything that we are, have been or shall be. Tiny lives come to use that seem too small to fight the battle and yet mayhap in their souls is the wisdom of the gods, and through these tiny organisms, when unfolded by the conscious labor of the spirit within, will come the masters and gods. So the story of the conception of the white elephant is the way to perfection by the purification of bodies, that the Lord may ride among his people upon the back of this stately beast. The crime of vaccination. How much longer will people have to pay to have smallpox is the problem confronting a large number of people. They send their children to the public school and are forced to allow a pedigreed concept to pump smallpox into them under the refined heading of vaccination. It has been proven conclusively that a great train of ills, in body and in spirit, follow after vaccination. Many vaccinated people have succumbed to smallpox, while many exposed to it have not taken it, although unvaccinated. The karmic debt for vaccination is twofold. First, to our bodies which we deliberately defile with smallpox serum and vaccine. Secondly, to the animal who goes through untold suffering and is itself given smallpox in order that from the ulcers the drops of vaccine may be extracted and pumped into us. The occultist is fighting tooth and nail to abolish vaccination and supplant it with good common sense. Smallpox is primarily a filth disease, and if people would live right, bathe right, and eat right, they would not get it, for the healthy body is perfectly capable of taking care of its germs. We look forward with great hopes to the day when we will remove from the fair name of our race the blemish, mental and physical, the swollen glands, the tonsil trouble, the nervousness and debility, the rashes and outbreaks, not a small percentage of which can be traced to vaccine, which kills the best in us in order to save the rest. The Kojiki. The Kojiki is a very ancient book of the Japanese having to do with the creation of the universe and the building of the first land. Among the Japanese we find many interesting mythologies, not the least of which is the ancient Japanese story of creation, which we will very briefly consider in this article. The Kojiki opens with the story of the coming of the three gods. Every nation has its trinity, and this trinity is the expression all things which come into creation. The moment abstraction is concreted, it divides itself into three forces, which are the Trimurti of India, or the three phases of human life. God, the unmanifest, manifests himself through three creatures, for there are but three expressions of force in the universe: the creative force, the projective and perpetuating force, and, thirdly, the disintegrative or reductive force. The moment that any life essence assumes matter, it becomes subject to these three gods, who are in reality the rulers of Maya, or of the created universe. The only reality is the uncreated, which is the beginning and end of all creation. In the ancient doctrines of Japan there are two kinds of deities, heavenly gods and earthly gods. The heavenly gods refer undoubtedly to those beings who dwell in the spiritual planes, or else those beings who, while manifesting in the world, descended from the spiritual planes. In other words, they are those forces extraneous to our eyes which assist in the molding of our consciousness, while the earthly gods are those who, though born of men, achieve immortality and become deified as the fruitage of their labors here. The Kojiki shows two divisions to the universe: the heavens and the earth. The heavens came before the earth, which was horn out of water by the actions of two gods who are called as Anaji, the male who invites, and his sister are Izanami, the female who invites, literal translation. These two were the creators of the earth and represent the principles of polarity which bring solid matter into existence. It is said in the ancient hook that in the plane of the superior world called the Most High Heaven there were three deities born out of no thing, that is, were differentiated from that which is not. They were parentless creations, self-born androgynous careless creations, self-born, androgynous creation, and, according to the ancient story, withdrew themselves from creation after the appearance of two secondary deities. The first of these self-born ones was called the Master of Heaven's Center, the second was called the Most Distinguished Producer of Wonders, and the third the Divine Producer of Wonders. They appeared in clouds floating over the heavens, and the source of their being was unknown, but they are seldom symbolized because even their shape is but a hypothesis. From them came two others that were born of a strange hollow stick or reed-like growth which came out of the earth at that time when it was a floating bubble in the center of a great ocean. The names of these two deities were the elder reed shoot deity and the heaven-born eternally standing deity. They likewise were unseen to mortal men and were born without parents. These five constitute the eldest of the ancient cosmogony and in modern occultism represent the elder brothers or the five great initiates who never leave the temple but, like the ancient deities, hide their person. The wisdom religion is divided into two subdivisions, the five God-born or God-reclaimed ones and the seven man-born or man-unfolded on S. It is these two divisions which constitutes the mystery schools of the ancients. The higher group contains five, which is the number of the astral plane or the high priest, while the second contains seven, which is the number of the Mosaic law and the earthy things. In the ancient wisdom, the five-pointed star stands for the elder five whose thrones are in the human brain. It is through these five superior deities that man secures liberation cosmically, and they represent the wounds of the crucifixion and are the most secret of the ancient wisdom. According to the sacred books and early literature of the East, edited by Professor Charles F. Horn, Ph.D., the literal names translated into English of the next seven gods and goddesses are as follows. First, the earthly eternally standing deity and the luxuriant integrating master deity. These two were heaven-born without procreation and were unseen in the mortal world. Then came the Mud Earth Lord and Mud Earth Lady, the germ integrating deity, and his younger sister the life integrating deity, the elder of the great place, and his sister the elder lady of the great place, the perfect exterior, and his sister the awful lady, the male who invites and the female who invites. From the earthly eternally standing deity down to the female who invites we have what are termed the seven divine generations. These represent the seven logos or the gods of the planetary chain who are the outpouring of the five unseen first causes, which are the outpouring of the three most sacred centers, which three are the witnesses of the unknowable. In Masonry the numbers 3, 5 and 7 are of great significance, and Masonically it means exactly the same as in the ancient Japanese mythology the three nat tools, the five senses, and the seven liberal arts and sciences. The seven liberal arts and sciences are the lowest and belong to the earth, corresponding to the entered apprentice degree of Freemasonry, which is keyed to the number 7. The 5, which is the number of the priest and is called the Hierophant in the ancient Tarot, is the mind which thinks through the heart system and is best expressed by that old saying, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." As has been said before, 5 is the number of the astral plane, is the key to the fellowcraft degree of Freemasonry, and is the number of sense perception, which is the fruitage of the astral plane. The Master Jesus, expressing the principle of the astral plane, wore over his white garment a crimson robe as the symbol of the blood system. 3 is attuned to the mind, is the Master Mason's degree and the key to the 3rd degree of Masonry. It belongs to the mental world, and the mind-born gods are without father or mother, being born in the subtle mind stuff of the Saturn period. Thus we see the ancient cosmogony played out in both spirit and matter. The gods placed the last 2 named deities upon the bridge of heaven, or the anachrona, which is the bridge connecting the divine with the human, sometimes known as the heavenly stairs. Handing them a jeweled spear, they told them to stir the brine floating in the ocean until it should curdle. The spear was then drawn up, and the brine that dripped from it piled up upon the surface of creation, forming a mighty island which was called Anagoro, or the first land. Upon this they built their first temple and a hall 8 fathoms square, from which point all creation was carried on. This legend undoubtedly refers to the ancient mystery of the descent of the spiritual hierarchies onto the north polar cap of the Earth, which was the first point to become crystallized. The spear was the ray sent down by the sun, upon which ray the spiritual hierarchies descended, and the sun drew up the water, leaving the earth. The ancient myth tells that the spiritual hierarchies built their temple upon the sacred island of the Gobi Desert, where it has remained even to this day. From this point, all the work of civilizing and unfolding human thought, race, and culture has been carried on. It is this point which the occultist believes to be the place where the spiritual bridge or cord connecting the planet with the sun passes into the earth. This is the beanstalk of Jack, which we read of in the fairy story, which grew all the way up to heaven. In the temple of Shambhala we find the sacred cosmogony played out again. Of the 12 masters or elder brothers who inhabit it, 7 are demigods attuned to the concrete world, while 5 remain in the shrine all the time as the invisible life and power of the great work in the world. In this way the ancient Japanese creation exactly agrees with that of the Hindu, the Jewish, and the Chinese, for, while the deities differ in name, in each case they represent the laws and properties necessary for the creation of concrete manifestation out of abstract possibility. They all have taught us that the gods became mortal themselves when they entered mortal substance, and that all things are subject to birth, growth, and decay, the tribute of human expression, until they are superior to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the concretions of the Absolute. This is all played out again in the body of man, in the zodiac, and in many other stories and allegories of the various religions of the world. All these doctrines have 12 gods or demigods, of which 1 is the leader, 3 are his messengers, and all the remaining are demigods. All of these gods carry out the dictates and orders of their leader, who in turn is born out of the parentless abyss and carries sacred or magic implements of power, which are the basis of his superiority over mortal men. The implements which make the gods greater than men are all to be found when we analyze the Masonic implements and instruments, which are symbolical of mental, emotional or physical body qualities, which in turn symbolized the spiritual expression of man seeking manifestation in partially crystallized bodies. The great Japanese colleges of learning, especially the Buddhistic colleges, are beginning to take great interest in unraveling the mystery of mythology, for they realize, as the Christian world must eventually realize, that mythology is the most accurate historical data on spiritual subjects which we have preserved to us, and that the keys of wisdom, both scientific and theological, are concealed in the mythologies of ancient people. Neither history nor literature as an entire has preserved truth, but mythology has been honest, and it makes little difference whether you are searching for the effects of a chemical combination, the birth of a planet, or the effect of contradictory emotions on the human soul. You will be perfectly safe in accepting the mythological characters and their word in solving a problem. A country that knows its mythology is fortunate indeed, and in this respect Japan is especially blessed, for it is one of the most fascinating and inspiring mythologies known to the world today, of which this little word we have spoken is but the beginning of a study that could involve lifetimes and has astounded all who ever attempted it. Thoughts for the new year. The time is coming for New Year's resolutions, which are usually made the first week in January and broken the second. This year let us aspire to hold through the entire span of months the resolutions which we make for the new year. The occult schools are indeed mystic organizations, and entrance to them is man's pledged oath and vow. Many people object to oaths and vows, but there are some which we must take as we go along the line. They are not, however, pledges made to others. They are moral obligations which the body must assume and live up to. We must pledge ourselves to ourselves. Our life is our living oath of allegiance to the cause which we most cherish, while the vows we take in the silence of our soul tie us to the masters of wisdom. No vows to other mortal things, but an endless vow of allegiance to our God. Let this new year bring with it these promises we make to ourselves, when no one demands of us that we shall do the best that is in us for the unfoldment of our nature and the glorification of the plan. All the books that have ever been written in this world and all the lectures given since Earth began cannot bring you any closer to the realization of right than someone else's idea, or at best a mental concept. But when man lives the practical life of regeneration, purification, self-mastery and harmlessness, the bodies attuned by their purification and the resulting improvement of organic quality are capable of finer ideals, nobler concepts and truer estimates than it is possible for us to make in our present condition. Only a sage can make an honest estimate, uncolored by personality. Only gods are capable of right analysis, only seers and patriarchs of right discrimination. These qualities are a basis of wisdom which is not book learning but practical experience. In the ancient Mosaic law the powers of being spoke unto the children of earth in the voice of wrath, saying, "Thou shalt not." This was the ancient law. But with the coming of the new law this is changed to "thou shalt." No longer does the prophet say you must not do evil, but now he says you must do good. These paragraphs are not affirmative, and anyone who tries to make them into affirmations will destroy all their value. They are resolutions with which to open the new year, that it may in truth bring us closer to wisdom and understanding. Therefore let us consider these resolutions as listed below. Unto that self which is within me and is the source of all, I send those greetings which the body can send unto the source of itself, and pledge that this year I shall serve this spirit within myself with my heart, my mind and my hand, not to the glorification of matter, but that all the world may know the reality of spirit. As the spirit in man is a friend of all things, one with the spirit of all things, knowing neither foe nor friend, kith or kin, race or creed, I shall emphasize this during the coming year through that personality which is the finite manifestation of the infinite. I shall harm no living thing during this year, but shall seek communion with that spirit in all living things, which is the universal solvent of inharmony. My relationship with my brother man this year shall be based upon my own intrinsic realization of right and not upon their attitude to me. It shall make no difference to me how I am treated, for during this year I shall only do good, express charity, live fraternity, and follow the doctrine of non-resistance. I shall neither resist evil nor accept it, but shall remain in poise while others are in turmoil. No word of dissatisfaction, of criticism or of destructiveness shall be launched into the world this coming year from me. I shall meet and receive all things in the spirit of charity, and will accept those responsibilities which the world gives me in peace, in poise and in placidity, no matter how hard my lot nor how sad my life. I shall be clean in thought, word and action, in body, mind and soul, and nothing shall defile the temple of the living God within me, neither that which goeth in or that which cometh out, but both shall be acceptable in the sight of the Most High. My voice shall not be raised in anger, nor my words be quick in tone or harsh in meaning, but shall be in perfect peace unto all things, realizing the fundamental unity of all life, and that diversity is nature's illusion. This year I shall labor. Every day something useful must be standing when night falls to show that today has not been in vain. Someone shall smile who has not smiled before, someone shall be glad who was sad, someone shall be richer who was poor, each day that I am spared in this world of men. Unto my younger brothers I also pledge in the spirit of helpfulness all that I have and am, that each year will come closer to realization of the oneness of all living things. Unto those foes with whom my life has been beset, those thoughtless ones who have grieved me of 10, those friends who have been untrue, those of my own flesh and blood who have been false to me, to all these this year I send greetings that, while they may be false to me, I shall never be false to them. That one power in the universe which is the basis of all bases and the cause of all causes, to that I renew the bond which is so easily broken by the thoughtlessness of life, that I may each day be true and come closer to the ideals which I know but which the weakness of the flesh so seldom gives expression to. Brother, beast and God, all three of these in nature shall realize my realization of unity, for I shall live this year to serve those who alone have the power to reward in spirit and in truth. Let us this year take unto ourselves these resolutions, build them into that eternal part of ourselves which was before the world was and shall be when oblivion dissolves all things. In the basic realization of human relationship and of man's relationship to God lies wisdom, and the relationship between man and his body will be the base of his relationship with the body cosmic, and this relationship shall be emphasized in spirit and in truth. During the coming months that past knowledge shall be changed to wisdom, intellectuality and mind forces into soul powers. In this the student fulfills that task which he is appointed to accomplish, and passes successfully through that probationship which we know as life. During the coming months, let us endeavor to realize that the greatest instruction which it is possible for mortal being to receive is that which is woven into your soul during the everyday experiences of life. The restraint, the kindliness, the charity, and the innate understanding applied to the panorama of endless occurrences measures the growth which is really yours among the spiritual things of nature. Wisdom does not come with listening, it comes with living. Only when we cleanse the inside of the cup can we receive the spiritual ordination which floats in it as the blood of the Christ. When we have cleansed this cup, then all may come and drink of the communion wine of spirit, for instead of a man the initiate has become a well of living waters springing up in the wilderness, where the thirsty of the world may come to drink not of things human but of things eternal. Let us each reach the highest goal which man may attain by preparing our compound natures to receive the finer currents of natural force that are ever in the universe, to nourish all who will attune themselves with the ever subtle influences. Man is a great receiving station of natural force, and thousands of messages pass through him every day. Not mediumistic messages, but the messages of natural force which express themselves in thought, action, and desire. Those who would come into the light of actual knowledge must learn to realize that wisdom rests in the proving of things and in the finer and higher qualities of reason. The wise man knows and does, in his actions being in harmony with his knowing emphasize the sincerity of his wisdom. Copyright 2025 by Manly Hall Official. Thank you for listening. Please consider to subscribe, like, and share to help the channel growth. New videos on a daily basis.